The second Gulf War, of course, was a result of the attacks on the United States in 9/11. And I want to make a few comments about it. It's obviously significant because it leads the United States to invade two countries, Afghanistan and Iraq. Ostensibly, the reason to invade Afghanistan is to destroy the Taliban government there. It was viewed by the United States as the Taliban being sympathetic to bin Laden and perhaps providing him with safe houses, safe places to stay out of reach of the United States. So the Taliban was disrupted, if not destroyed. Bin Laden, of course, would not be caught and killed until some years later under the Obama administration. But that was the ostensible reason for invading Afghanistan. The reason given for invading Iraq, of course, was the presence of weapons of mass destruction. These weapons never materialized, and I've always found it odd that the government used this as an excuse to invade Iraq because we largely knew exactly what Saddam Hussein had, having furnished many of these weapons to him ourselves back in the 80s so that he could kill Iranians with them. Nevertheless, the United States went to war in Iraq. One of the arguments given was that Saddam Hussein might use these weapons of mass destruction to help arm al-Qaeda and allow al-Qaeda to attack us with them. This also seems nonsensical. That would be probably a fatal risk on Saddam Hussein's part, number one. And number two, al-Qaeda and Saddam Hussein's government had no love lost between them. Hussein being, of course, much more of a clerical leader. Bin Laden, al-Qaeda, Saddam Hussein being a much more secular, worldly leader, and bin Laden and al-Qaeda being a much more clerical or religiously based organization. But nevertheless, we did invade these two countries. I want to make a comment about the split in the United States government regarding the war in the Gulf, the second war against Iraq. It was believed that an attack against Iraq would be a distraction, a diversion from our true mission, which was to destroy al-Qaeda, the Taliban, capture bin Laden, and Iraq was a needless sideshow. This split within the government became quite serious and would have dramatic consequences later. On the one side, you had Secretary of State Colin Powell. On the other, you had Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld won this bureaucratic battle to control the timing and pace of the attack, to control the size of the army that would be sent into Iraq. Rumsfeld believed in, I think he called it a light footprint, whereby the United States forces would be small in number, less than 150,000, I believe he wanted. This was against the advice of the Pentagon. The Pentagon believed we needed much larger forces to carry out this mission. The invasion itself, of course, went very quickly and very smoothly. Saddam Hussein's army, we ran it to ground very quickly, and it looked for a moment as if Rumsfeld was right. We only needed a small force to attack Iraq. But then the minute that the Iraqi government dissolved, the real problem started, and that was administering the country, governing the country. Many of you remember the scenes of looting in the streets, of Iraqis carrying away not only priceless works of art, but everyday office furniture. The United States did not have enough men on the ground in Iraq to control this, to govern the country, to bring a sense of order to the country, and the country went a little bit crazy. And I think it revealed us to be, in the eyes of the Iraqis, it revealed the United States to be either unable to keep order or unwilling to do so. And either way, it tended to discredit us. I'm going to mention 3 decisions that were made, and these are not merely tactical mistakes. These are historical blunders that we will live with, and we're still living with the consequences. First was the poor planning for the post-war conditions in Iraq. Again, I just mentioned this. We simply did not have the forces in country to deal with the problems. Second was the de-Baathification of the Iraqi government. Saddam Hussein, of course, was part of the Ba'ath Party. The Ba'ath Party was nothing but a pan-Arab political party. The de-Baathification undertaken by our ambassador there, L. Paul Bremer, stripped those Iraqis who, as the old cliche go, could make the trains run on time. These people were thrown out of jobs. We treated the Ba'ath Party almost as if it were the reincarnation of the Nazi Party at the end of the war in Germany in '45. And we threw teachers out of work, engineers, government officials, because they were part of the Ba'ath Party. Well, if you were going to be a professional in Iraq during those years of Saddam Hussein's rule, then you were going to be a member of the Ba'ath Party. So putting all these people out of work tended to increase the chaos in Iraq instead of lessening it. And then the second decision that Bremer made, which was even more disastrous, was firing the Iraqi army. This professional organization was simply dismissed. Now you have hundreds of thousands of young men who were drawing a salary. Now they're on the streets with weapons, out of work, and with no allegiance to the United States, certainly no allegiance to the dead regime of Saddam Hussein. This is the beginning of the Sunni insurgency, and we can see it taking full flight today with ISIS in Syria and in Iraq. These are serious historical blunders. Going into Iraq is one thing, but our decisions in the post-war period in Iraq have been truly disastrous, which has landed us in the rather untenable position we're in today, trying to hold the Iraqi government and country together in the face of ISIS. It's beginning to look as if Syria and Iraq both are going to be fundamentally changed as a result of this Sunni insurgency. The outcome of the Second Gulf War, we don't know yet. My suspicion is that having withdrawn most of our forces from Iraq and now having to reintroduce forces to Iraq to fight ISIS, this is simply unpredictable. In Afghanistan, my guess is that the Afghani farmers are simply waiting for us to leave so that they can go about their business of growing poppy instead of wheat or whatever it is that the American officers are encouraging the Afghanis to grow. I think the Afghanis understand that the American army, just like the Soviet army in the 1980s, will have to leave at some point, and when they do, the Afghanis will go back to doing what they have done for millennia. So, of all the post-Cold War foreign policy mistakes made by the United States, sins of omission or sins of commission, whether it's not intervening to stop genocide in Rwanda or invading Iraq under false pretenses, these are serious and lasting historical mistakes that we are still going to have to contend with for the foreseeable future. That is a rather pessimistic view of our foreign policy under George W. Bush, but I think it's one that we're going to have to face as a country and deal with the consequences. Thank you.